Pastor Lindsey Williams, 30 years ago or more, he worked on the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. His best-selling book, Energy Non-Crisis, has been proven 30-plus years later to be totally accurate. And it was an underground bestseller. I remember hearing about it in the 90s. I had family that read it in the 80s. Because of his book, but he also knew some of these men, he was kind of the corporate liaison from the oil company boards, where they all get together and collude, to the oil field workers for several years. Well, no, 3 years. And the point is that he knew, I don't even want to say the name of the guy that's dead, because I always mix it up with the guy that's still alive. Mr. Fromm died a year and a half ago or so of cancer, so we could reveal that fellow. Lindsey Williams, of course, his sources have also been backed up. People like Dr. Stan Monteith, syndicated radio host, Dr. Monteith, who's on the air here on Genesis, he found out who they were and actually called them both. The other guy that's still alive was a CEO of a big 3 oil company. I'll just leave it at that. But everything we've gotten from him has been on the battle plan. Sometimes the globalists change plans, but I'd say about 95% of what Lindsey Williams has told us in the last 6 years, that, you know, oil would go from where it was at 50 bucks to 150. Then he said, okay, now we'll go to 40. He was wrong. It went below 40, but everybody laughed at him and said, that's not going to happen. He said 2 years ago, and I don't even have the crew or staff to go pull these up. They're there on the Alex Jones channel. That's there in the archives. He said, and we wrote articles about it, he said 2 years ago, the Middle East is going to go up in flames. They're going to stage revolution. They're going to fund the radicals. And even I'm like, wow, that sounds wild. But that's a diversion. They're going to attack, next is China. Watch China. Well, since then, they've massed the fleets. The Chinese president, the Chinese top general, and the Chinese top admiral have all said in the last year, prepare for war. Just type in. Chinese president says prepare for war with the U.S. Chinese top general says prepare for war with the U.S. Chinese top admiral prepare for war with the U.S. That's because the so-called U.S. run by foreign banks is setting up bases all around China. They've got the Japanese trying to stir stuff up with the Chinese as a pretext, while China holds our debt. And while the globalists are trying to move everything to China as the new command base, it's all this balancing act with the bankers playing countries off against each other to make the countries acquiesce to what the bankers want, but in the end, hurting and destroying the sovereign nations in the end game. So you have to see it from that perspective of playing both sides off against each other, the old Rothschild model. Now, Lindsey's always such a gentleman. He comes on and thanks me and kind of recaps things. But no need to do that, Lindsey. Just getting into this, you said over a year ago, hey, don't worry, gas is going to stay low until 2012. But by the end of 2012, the dollar will be dead. And you said 2 years ago, QE3 will not come in 2011. He goes, Alex, I know you're the voice of, he said this off air, but he mentioned it somewhat on air. He was polite, didn't say my name. You know, we hear these national ads saying it's going to happen this December. That was last year. No, it's not. QE will be announced in the middle of 2012. He said that a year ago. Boom, it happened. So I'm hoping you're wrong. Max Kaiser is right most of the time. You know, he's been wrong about things before, saying silver go to 500. They pulled some tricks and drove it back down when it got up to 50. But I'm hoping you're wrong, bud, because, and I hope your big oil company exec friend is wrong, because, you know, tell us what you've been right about briefly and then get into what's coming next, because I wish that you had a better track record of being wrong, Pastor Lindsey Williams. Lindsey, go ahead.
What a privilege it is to be with you on InfoWars today, Alex, and to give you the information that I've been given in briefings from my elite friend just recently. It was so exciting last week. I knew in advance that Mr. Obama was going to utterly, gloriously mess up in his debate. I had received an email that morning from my elite friend, and they told me basically what was going to happen that night. You know, things like this.
So he was told to throw the fight. He was told to throw the fight.
Well, yeah, we'll get into that in the course of the program today, and also the expression I have used that they gave to me for the past maybe year and a half, the dollar will be dead by the end of 2012. I was just given the 13 reasons or 12 reasons just recently to watch. But Alex, the most important thing right now is the most dastardly act that has ever been performed on the American people in the history of our country that took place on September the 13th, 2012. This is going to affect the life, the dinner table, and the home of every single person out there in your listening audience, more than any other one thing. Now, all of you heard it. It was on the national news. The Federal Reserve, Mr. Ben Bernanke, announced that they will purchase $40 billion in mortgage-backed securities each month indefinitely. Well, as soon as I heard that, Alex, immediately I said, something's wrong somewhere. We're not hearing the whole story. We don't know what's really going on. I picked up the phone the very following day, if I remember correctly, and I called the gentleman. You know his name. You just referred to him a moment ago. I picked up the telephone, and I called my elite friend, and I said, what's the real story behind all of this? Now, you get a pencil and piece of paper. Everybody out there in the listening audience, you will not see this in the financial newsletters for another 2 to 3 months. And if I had not picked up that phone that next day and called my elite friend, I would not know. You're about to hear something that only one newsletter is even intimated to it that I've seen lately of all the ones that I look at. So here it is. I asked him the question. I said, where will the Federal Reserve get $40 billion every month? September, October, November, December, January, indefinitely, right on. And he said immediately, without any hesitation whatsoever, he said, Chaplain, thin air. I said, wait a minute. You're telling me that the QE1 was only $70 billion, and here, they didn't even call this QE3. They just merely said they were going to do something. This is so much worse than QE3 could have ever dared to be. You can't imagine, even though they didn't call it that. Where will they get $40 billion, thin air? And I said, okay, they're going to buy mortgage-backed securities with something that they pulled out of thin air that has no backing whatsoever. I said, this country's in shambles. We got $16 trillion national debt. The housing market has completely burst. People are wondering how they're even going to feed their families, and you're telling me that they're going to take $40 billion out of thin air, purchase mortgage-backed securities. Okay, turn this word around so you'll know what a mortgage-backed security is.
I tell you what, Lindsey, we got to go to break. Stay there. We'll be right back with Pastor Lindsey Williams. Insider billionaire investors like George Soros and John Paulson have recently made massive moves into gold, purchasing what Bloomberg News described as gold hoards. Soros alone doubled his holdings in a single day. Russia's Vladimir Putin has doubled down on gold, increasing the country's holdings by over 100%, with $1.8 trillion under management. The bond king, Bill Gross, the world's preeminent bond fund manager at PIMCO, has warned investors of the dangers of QE3 and inflation. And what's he betting on? You guessed it, gold. Friends, this is Alex Jones for MidasResources.com. For more than 15 years, I have exclusively used Midas Resources for all my precious metal needs. Whether it's bullion or collectibles you're looking for, Midas Resources is simply the best. I own my gold as a hedge against inflation. This Federal Reserve fiat currency could go the way of the Deutschmark and the Weimar Republic anytime. In these historically dangerous times, it makes sense to physically hold gold and silver. Midas already has some of the best deals in the industry. But if you give them a call and mention the radio special, they will give you a list of the day's super specials. Midas brokers are standing by to answer all your questions at 800-686-2237. They also have a lot of informative free literature explaining the opportunities and risk of holding precious metals. They are ready to answer your questions at 800-686-2237. Again, that's 800-686-2237. Yeah, just last week I was sitting around thinking about Pastor Lindsey Williams, and I'm like, 2 years ago, he said the Middle East would go up in flames. He said every country would fall. He went down the list. And then he said Saudi Arabia would fall too. And he said, yeah, there'll probably be something with Iran, but that's a diversion. His source, who I know, who's tied in at the highest levels, who's just turned out to be frighteningly accurate, said that China's the real target. And, I mean, I don't know what the globalists are thinking if they're going to start a war with them when our own government helped give them the missile secrets so that instead of one warhead coming into our atmosphere, it's 25 of them, or half of them are warheads, half of them are dummies, decoys. That's the basic reentry MERV technology. I'm digressing. Lindsey, where to start here then? We got you 20 minutes in the next hour, and I want to take some calls as well. Break down what your source says they're planning to do, what they're going to do with this quantitative easing, where that's going, what they're going to do with the derivatives crud, the bad mortgages they sold, where all this is going. I guess if China doesn't accept the trillions in that they've bought, they're going to get attacked. I mean, this is just madness.
Well, the providence of God, I had the privilege of being invited to be the chaplain to the elite of the world for a 3-year period. These people are now in their 70s and 80s. They have given me numerous briefings recently as to what they intend to do. I'd like to answer all of your questions today if I can, Alex, because they have told me recently all of the things that you just mentioned. But the most dastardly one of all was perpetrated on America on September the 13th, 2012. So allow me, I'll go through it as fast as I possibly can. My elite friend said, Chaplain, they're going to pull $40 billion out of thin air every month, indefinitely. And I said, okay, they're going to buy mortgage-backed securities. Let me break it down this way in order to do it quickly. That's your house. You heard me correctly. The shopping center down the street, the small business that used real estate as a method of obtaining their loan. And I said, you mean to tell me that the Federal Reserve bought your house? If it's mortgaged, they bought your house last month? That's exactly right. And I said, you telling me that a person works hard in order to try to make that payment, 40 hours a week, slaves, laborers, but yet the Federal Reserve went and bought that house mortgage and pulled out of thin air with no labor whatsoever? He said, Chaplain, that's correct. $40 billion every month, indefinitely. Then the statement, you ready? I ask you to get those pencils, please. You think I'm a prophet now. You haven't seen anything to what you're going to say 6 months from now. But I want to tell you right now, I'm not a prophet. It's just by God's providence. I know the people who are doing it. So please don't call me a prophet. Here it is. You ready for the statement? The elite, the Federal Reserve, will own every piece of mortgaged real estate in the United States of America before this is over. Folks, did you catch that? This came right from my elite friend. Every piece of mortgaged real estate in the United States of America. You do not own your house. You just think you do. You don't own it.
And then they'll be known as the saviors for saving the housing market and commercial market that went under when they actually engineered it. They want us dependent. This has always been the plan.
What will the Federal Reserve, my next question, and I hope your mind is thinking 1,000 miles an hour, because I've got some statements here. Here we go. I asked my friend, I said, now tell me, what is the Federal Reserve going to do with $40 billion worth of mortgages? Now, some of them are toxic, some of them aren't. Some people are up to date, some people aren't. The houses are vacant. I said, what are they going to do with those $40 billion worth of mortgages that they're holding every month? And I said, are they just going to put them in a lockbox somewhere and let them sit? Folks, are you ready? Are you holding on to your chair, Alex? You haven't heard this yet. You're going to get it shortly, even in the best of newsletters. He said to me, he said, Chaplain, the Federal Reserve is going to take those $40 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities and use them as an investment into the derivative market. Folks, did you catch this? This has never been done before in the history of the world. This has never happened to any people or any nation in all of time.
They're going to bail themselves out.
Not done at QE1, not done at QE2. They will take those $40 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities and invest them in the derivative market. I'm going to use his exact words. Those of you who are out there in the financial field, you'll pick these up. He said to me, I'm using his exact words now, he said they're going to hedge the derivative market. He said again, he said derivatives are written on interest rate vehicles. Your house mortgage is going to be used like a one-armed bandit, Las Vegas style, to bet on the derivative market. Alex?
Incredible. Stay there. This is so bombshell. Actually, your source told you this. Max Kaiser and others, that's what they're saying. And it's actually in the news that they're taking bailout money and leveraging it again.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How
late it is? You know, I have a lot of high-powered sources as well. I'll be honest with you that over the years, as it's been made public, that the NSA is listening to everybody's phone calls and that government people are being persecuted for whistleblowing, a lot of my sources will not talk to me over the telephone anymore, even in code. That's another question for Lindsey Williams. How is his source still able to talk to him? Why is the elite allowing us? Because I know who this guy is. And I know another journalist that years ago called both his sources up and said, is it true you're telling Lindsey Williams this? They're like, how in the dickens did you get my number? How did you find out who we are? And one of them since died. We can talk about him. Mr. Fromm, who was the head of operations at one of the big 3 oil companies. The other was the former CEO of one of the biggest in the world. I have some similar sources, and they basically say the same thing. Or they say things like, your show's going to get real big. And I'm like, why? Because you're on target, bud. Well, what does that mean? Just you're on target. I've been told that by multi-time billionaires, defense contractor company owners, oil company executives, high level. I mean, I get current generals calling me up, famous spies call me up, authors. I'm not bragging. I mean, if you are somebody who's in the establishment, who is there to talk to? There aren't many people. And also, I'm known for never giving up sources. That's another big part of people are always like, give us your source. That's hilarious. That shows the person knows nothing about journalism. Because I wear the hat of a commentator. I give my analysis. I rant. I rave. But behind the scenes, when we're writing articles, we're doing stories, we're vetting things. Does it mean we're perfect? No. Does it mean we make mistakes? Yes. But we're trying to tell the truth. That's the difference between us and MSNBC and people like that. And now more than ever, I want to tell you something that Lindsey said before. We've been able to have them change their timeline before. And Zbigniew Brzezinski just published a book this year admitting the elite are in trouble and people are waking up and that they may have to change their timeline. But the big banks have committed to this takeover. And so now a lot of analysts think they can't reverse what they've begun. And when Lindsey just said that his source told him all this, it clicks with everything we've got. Because if you look, the derivatives market for the last 4 years since 2008 got smaller for just a little while. And now in the last year, you've seen the derivatives market getting bigger again. And they won't say what they're doing with the $45 billion a month. There's another $40 billion on top of that goes to other things. But the media focuses on the $45 billion to these mortgage-backed securities. And the banks have always been doing what Lindsey's saying since they got rid of Glass-Steagall in 1999, 1998. They have been leveraging your mortgage like a fractional reserve. When a bank has $1, can loan out $10. They've been taking your mortgage and loaning it out, in some cases, 50 times. That's what these derivatives are. They give them all these fancy, confusing names. They're fraud. And they've got Iceland, they've got Greece, they've got Spain, they've got Portugal, they've got the U.S. signing on to this. So that's what Lindsey's getting at. Now, I'm going to go back to Lindsey here in a moment, but I want to point out our inaugural issue. And we've still got, we've got about 600 copies of the inaugural September issue, The Economic Collapse, Banksters Plot to Destroy U.S. Economy, Banking Cartel Conquers America, where they brag about it, History of False Flag Stage Terror, Rome Burned, Will We? They're now announcing the police can't help you in Detroit. 80% in a new poll out say they won't be going to Detroit who live in Michigan, and the police are saying we can't protect you. They're also saying that in many other cities now. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't about you who already knows this. It's about your friends and family. We sell these at cost at InfoWarsShop.com. Now, you can't get this one because it's sold out except for the ones we held back. When you get the year subscription at cost, shipping included, $59.95, you get 12 issues delivered to your door, plus the original first issue. And the new one is DARPA, The Real Skynet, October Surprise War. Question mark. The End of Humanity, Rise of the Robots. This is the elite's own word. This is an emergency transmission. This magazine It's available, and we are very close to selling out of it as well. And then again, we hold some back for those that subscribe, because we're not just going to give you the next 12. We'll give you some of the back issues, all at InfoWarsStore.com. But that's not what really supports us, because that's at cost. When you buy the Pro Pure water filters with 10% off with promo code WATER, or when you buy books and DVDs and T-shirts and ball caps, that's how I fund an operation that costs me close to $6 million a year to run, totally independent. So please support our sponsors, support our local AM and FM stations by supporting their sponsors or sponsoring and spreading the word. And go to InfoWarsStore.com and get the T-shirts. Plus, you'll meet like-minded people wearing it to church or work or on the street. So again, we're also going to have the 5th annual Money Bomb to pay for the satellite uplinks and the rest of the software and a better board. We need to raise about $500,000, or I can spend our emergency funds. It's just if we get into trouble in this depression, we could end up shutting down. We are operating not on the margins with a little bit of a backup. Do the math if it's $6 million a year to run this place, what it costs to run things a month. $500,000 with the IT, the regulations, the bills, the taxes, the government garbage, the 50-plus crew members and contractors. We're doing this on the cheaps, by the way, and reaching millions of new people a week. 15 million a week total conservatively on AM, FM, shortwave, internet, satellite, YouTube, all of it. And now we've gotten more than 15 affiliates in the last 2 weeks, with more than 50 shining on right now. A lot of it's because Michael Savage has left radio for a while, but we were already getting a bunch. Perfect Storm's happening. Cover of Talkers magazine last year. Stations were on getting top ratings out of nowhere because of the new people meter tracker systems are better at ratings than the old systems. The show is on fire. Right as the evil explodes, good is exploding. For every action, equal or opposite reaction. So my point is, now more than ever, support us. Go to InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com and donate today, because we usually start promoting a month out and usually have about $100,000 by the time it starts. I've been so busy. I started promoting this stuff today or last night, 10 days out. It's the 18th and 19th. 48-hour transmission. I'll be here for most of it. So, again, I'm done ranting. Going back to our guests we've got for 20 minutes the next hour. We'll also go to your calls as well. Lindsey, I'm here ranting. It's just that as everything we talk about, unfortunately, starts to unfold, as our credibility rises, we're in a depression. We need the support to be able to continue to be a platform for everybody from you to Ron Paul to Jesse Ventura, to all the activists we have on. The responsibility. I don't know, you're a pastor, I'll ask you. A lot of people get power and they get arrogant and they get reckless. With me, it's the opposite. I'm not scared, but I'm also humble. I know I come off as aggressive, but I mean, that's because I'm angry. But as I know now that I'm exponentially growing, a lot of people call it choking. I'm not choking. It's the opposite. I kind of just run through the show like it's nothing, and then I think back, I'd better do a better job because of where God has put me in his plan. I don't know how to deal with this, that it's 15 million a week now. At current growth rates, it's going to be 20, 30 million a week. I mean, this is insane. I can't believe, I meant to talk about this at the start of the show, Lindsey, that I've been put in this position. How do you deal with the fact that you were put in the position to be brought in to an inner boardroom meeting of oil companies for 3 years?
Same way you're doing right now, Alex. I consider it an honor and a privilege that God would have even allowed me the opportunity, a little insignificant, unknown missionary out in the bush of Alaska, to sit with the elite of the world for 3 years. You, Alex, have been given an anointing of God. And you are in the right place at the right time, exactly what God wants you to do, and that's the reason you're there. And both of us do it with all the humility imaginable in order to try to tell people the truth. And, Alex, I hope we get time in this program today, because you saw it. Everybody saw that presidential debate last week on Wednesday.
Yeah, start over what your source told you, then go through the big bombshell you dropped about what they're going to do with everybody's mortgages. That's what some other experts are telling me, the plan to take over all mortgages in America and federalize them, just like they've said they're going to do with all the industry, and then only the insiders will be able to operate. My dad was talking to a top executive in healthcare, a guy that, I'm not going to get into it, let people know who he's talking, who went to a special Harvard event where they told him everything's going to be nationalized and turned over to the Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Bill Gates Foundation. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, let's get back to fractional reserve banking. Alex, you were exactly right, except what my elite friend told me was that they're going to take these $40 billion worth of mortgages, your house, the shopping center down the street, the small business that used real estate to obtain its mortgage, and they're going to fractionally reserve that. I don't have time to give it in detail.
No, go ahead. We got 20 minutes to the next hour. Break down.
$30 billion becomes $360 billion that they are investing in the derivative market, and in 3 months' time, the Federal Reserve will be making off of your house $1 trillion with the money they pulled out of thin air. They're making a 90% profit. Now, sit down. Please, everybody, hold on to your chair. I want to tell you the next one. I got to hurry. I asked my elite friend, I said, okay, they pulled $30 billion out of thin air. Yes. I said they're going to invest these mortgage-backed securities in the derivative market. Las Vegas one-arm bandit gamble. Yes. I said, what are the lending institutions? Are you catching this, people? Please, you cannot imagine how important this is. The lending institutions, J.P. Morgan Chase, Citibank, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, Fannie, Freddie. I said, what are these lending institutions going to do with $40 billion each month that they are given by the Federal Reserve? Are you ready? He said, Chaplain, it has already been decided behind closed doors. He said the agreement was made long before Mr. Bernanke ever made his announcement that they would buy these mortgage-backed securities from the banks. And he said that money, the $40 billion that the lending institutions are going to receive, it has been previously guaranteed by them that they will turn around and buy treasuries with it. No, you haven't heard this anywhere. Only he could have possibly have known it. I said, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that this $40 billion that the lending institutions are going to receive is not going to help the real estate market? No. I said, it's not going to do anything for the recession? He said, no. I said, what about the economy? He said, no. I said, they have promised the Federal Reserve that they'll turn around and buy T-bills. Folks, did you catch this? T-bills, which pays the interest on the national debt. Not one penny of this money is going to go to you folks. $40 billion out of thin air, which depreciates the value of your currency, and in turn they're going to have a previous behind closed doors agreement that these lending institutions will buy treasuries, which pays the interest on the national debt in order to maintain the American dollar for a few more months until they're ready to collapse all of the currencies of the world. Okay, I don't have time to give any more. I've got to go to the next one. My elite friend told me so much in this, Alex, until I just wish I had 3 or 4 hours with your audience. My elite friend, after we got through with that, I was so stunned, I was literally speechless, and I said, okay, tell me a few other things. And I begun to just talk to him one-on-one. You want to know what the elite learned out of Thursday, September the 13th, 2012? Now, you definitely won't get this from any other source whatsoever. He said, Chaplain, basically what we've learned is that the American people will give in. They're not going to protest. He said, we're not going to have any revolution. He said, there are not going to be any riots in the street. I'm going to put it in my words because I want to shame you. Every person out there, you're going to belly up. The elite are expecting you now to become slaves, and your children and your grandchildren, when nobody rose up and in arms about $40 billion out of thin air, your house being invested in the derivative market. A Chinaman may own it. A Russian may own your house. And then you did nothing about it, and now there will be no improvement in the economy because those scoundrels who call themselves the lending institutions will now, by prior agreement, turn around and buy treasuries, T-bills, in order to keep the American economy afloat. And the elite have learned something about Americans. They have learned that the Americans aren't going to do anything. Now I want to give you the facts. You go back and look this up for yourself for last week. Write it down, please. On Thursday, September the 13th, instantaneously upon the announcement of Ben Bernanke as to the fact that the Federal Reserve was going to buy $40 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities, instantaneously that moment, gold went up $49, just like that. That's 3%. Silver went up $3. That's 9%. Gasoline went up 15 cents instantaneously at the gas pump. That's 4%. Now, wait a minute. I know what you're going to say as soon as I say this next statement. Gasoline did not go up 15 cents. Folks, are you catching this? Please, you must understand this. You've got to think this through. Gasoline is 4 quarts to the gallon. When Mr. Bernanke made that statement, you went to the gas pump and it was 15 cents higher. No, it wasn't. It was not. Gasoline is still 4 quarts to the gallon. The currency that you purchased that gasoline with lost in its purchasing. But you wonder why I made the statement, why my elite told me back a year and a half ago the dollar would be dead by the end of 2012. You haven't seen anything yet. I've only told you a fraction of what the briefings are they've given me recently. That dollar went down 15 cents in purchasing power instantaneously upon Mr. Bernanke's announcement. The gasoline is still 4 quarts to the gallon and didn't go up.
Sure, the point is the media lies and says it's only speculators driving up the price of oil, driving up the price of food. No, it's dollar devaluation. It happened the day they did it.
The dollar lost its purchasing power instantaneously upon that very moment. Now, you think about the groceries. Now, I have a question for you. I mean, oh, my goodness, folks.
They're going up 10% a month every month in the last 6 months.
Folks, are you catching this? Your house mortgage was used to invest in the Las Vegas one-armed bandit. Secondly, the institutions that you have placed trust in, the banks that you have your money in, are not going to help the economy. They are going to turn around and buy T-bills to bail out the Federal Reserve and keep them afloat just long enough until they're ready for the collapse to take place. The elite have learned that you aren't going to do anything about it whatsoever. And I got a question for you. How long before you cannot afford to make your mortgage payment any longer? Now, watch this. I like avocados. I try to eat an avocado sandwich every few days. For some reason, I just like it. I'm paying $1 per avocado at the grocery store right now. You're going to be paying $2 shortly. It's like that gasoline went up 15 cents a gallon. You pay $2 for that avocado at the grocery store. How long is it going to be before you can no longer afford to put the clothes on the back of your children, put gasoline in the gas tank, put food on the table, and still make that mortgage payment?
And it's all engineered by the bankers that the prostitute collaborator media tell us are fixing everything. And they are every month monetizing 40+ billion of their debt backed by our mortgages and then leveraging it again into the very derivatives that we're bailing out. Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com, None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com. Folks, you better be asking yourselves, who are you? Okay, Lindsey, I've got to have him back up again later in the week or next week because he is on fire with the info he's giving us. And I know who his former Big Three oil company CEO, I know of who he speaks. Lindsey, just briefly, why is he telling you all this? I know before you got threatened, they said they'd basically kill you a few years ago if you didn't shut up. But here's what you're allowed to say. I mean, is it that metaphysical rule that they want people to know? I know the other guy was dying of cancer, took him a few years, and so he was morally against what's happening. The other guy's been threatening you, but still acting friendly. And if people don't get that, I've actually experienced similar things with these people. Very, very weird people, but it's like a breed or something. They all act the same. Just briefly, because then I want to get into the China situation, because you called it 2 years ago, what happened in the Middle East, but you said that's a diversion ahead of China, and everybody's like, China? And since then, the fleets are masked. The Chinese generals are saying prepare for war. Answer those two questions. Why is he telling you this? I mean, have you asked him, why are you telling me this?
Number one, he's telling me this because out of courtesy and, should I say, admiration for the fact that I gave 3 years of my life to be their chaplain, and I'm probably the only person of my type that most of these people ever came in touch with in their life. Secondly, this man is older. You remember Mr. Fromm was 87 years of age when he died. This gentleman is in his 70s. He's facing the graveyard. And whenever you get, you're much younger than I am, Alex. You're a young spry chicken compared to me. And Dr. Stan Monteith. But when you get a little older and you know that nobody's going to live out there forever, you start talking. And this man is doing exactly that. Number one, out of admiration. Number two, because he has children, and they haven't threatened him yet. So as a result, he keeps giving me information, so I just hope he keeps giving it for a long time. But, it's so interesting, Alex. I got to cover this quick. I know we're giving out of time here, but I wish I had 2 or 3 hours. This was so comical. I mean, literally comical. You'll appreciate this. Last week was the presidential debate, Wednesday, October the 3rd, 2012. And that morning, before the debate took place that night, I received an email from my elite friend, and he briefed to me on what was going to happen that night. Now, this is so comical until I'm going to put a little comical note.
Yeah, tell folks real fast. Tell them.
Yeah, I'll cover the rest of this mortgage-backed security thing on another day when you let me back on the air. But first of all, I received this email that morning, and it basically said watch for certain things in the course of the debate. Now, remember, Obama had double-crossed the elite. I told you this back under 6, 8, 7, 8 months ago, and many of you didn't believe it. But my elite friends had told me how that numerous times Obama had double-crossed them. Well, Obama was like a little child that had been caught with his hand in the cookie jar. You saw him. I mean, this man that has all of the charisma imaginable, he mesmerizes his audience. He could hypnotize an audience.
He was a deer in the headlights.
And all of a sudden, he is sitting there like a child with his hand in the cookie jar. And I want to tell you something, folks. He was actually scared stiff. That's the reason he did what he did in this debate last night. Why? His disobedience, his disorientation, his speechless way in that thing was a result of what I had been told. The elite literally slapped Mr. Obama in the face last week and scared the living daylights out of him.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done has been right.
We are joined by Lindsey Williams for another 30 minutes, and I know we've got callers lined up for quick questions for him. Lindsey, finish up your Obama story. I mean, he did look like he was cowed. That's actually what I said last week, is that he appeared intimidated by Romney. And I chalked it up to arrogance, used to everybody groveling to him for 4 years, to have a corporate vampire like Romney on him, a charming vampire, as my wife calls him. He couldn't handle it, but I know your source says that Obama's been double-crossing him. How has he been double-crossing him?
Well, the word that you used, Alex, intimidated, is the understatement of the year. Obama was literally scared stiff while he was on that platform because of what was said. And I'm going to, all you out there now, have those pencils and paper ready. I'm going to list the 3 items that literally scared Mr. Obama into losing his place, being completely out of order, and not being able to keep himself. Alex, it's been, let's see, the last time I had the privilege of being on your show was March the 25th. I looked it up on my calendar here a moment ago. There's been so many briefings these people have given me since then. I just have so much to tell you people. You bear with me. There's so much I'd like to say. Anyway, number 1, 2, and 3, here they are. You remember back when the Cross-Canada pipeline was canceled, I was in touch with my elite friend just after that, and he was livid. He was so mad at what this man had done. And then it was only a few weeks after that that he said to me, he said, Chaplain, if we older elite, now please distinguish between the two. I know the men who are in their 70s and 80s. And by the way, I've been put in touch with some more here recently, Alex, but not just the one you know now. There's some others that are talking too who are in their 70s and 80s. Now, the younger elite have a little bit different slant on things. The older elite, if they have anything to do with it whatsoever, folks, please catch this. If the older elite have anything to do with it, Mr. Obama will not become the next president of the United States of America. He canceled out on the Cross-Canada pipeline and literally made enemies out of all of them. Number two, now go back, please. I want you to go back and listen to that presidential debate last week.
Sure, so he did that.
You hear this. At the time, you didn't even know what you were hearing, but I knew what was going to be said. You remember the expression that Mr. Romney made about Dodd-Frank bill. Please, you cannot imagine how important that is to the elite. Obama had helped to double-cross them in the Dodd-Frank bill. You've got to go back and look this up. Number three, you notice that Mr. Romney talked about production of American oil and how that Obama would not allow that to take place in many oil pools in America. Now, this is so significant because when they create the mass chaos that they're creating in the Middle East, they must be able to come back to America at $150 a barrel for crude oil and produce it from these very fields that Mr. Obama would not let them go through with instituting during his last 4 years, and as a result, the elite are so angry over this until Romney literally scared Mr. Obama stiff.
Yeah, that's why he was freaked out. You even said that on 6 months ago, that they were mad over the pipeline and mad over those other issues, and that was the thing. Romney was there delivering Obama a message.
Oh, he sure was. He was telling him things that literally scared him stiff. Not really.
Because because Obama knew, this is amazing analysis, that these are messages he'd already been given through the grapevine, and here's Romney aggressively staring him down the whole time, telling him stuff and saying, listen, my sons lie too. Calling him son. Did you see that? It's just amazing. Wow, I really concur with what your source is saying. Amazing. Well, then here's the $64 billion question. Why would Obama, who's bought and paid for by the globalists, be going against him? I think you're saying there's a fissure in the elite. Sick of the globalist eugenicist control freaks adding poison to your water and laughing as you get sick and die? Start purifying your water with ProPure. My friends, I've done a lot of research, and the best gravity filter out there, bar none, is ProPure, and it's available discounted at Infowars.com. Its filters are silver impregnated to prevent bacterial growth. There's no priming required. It's NSF 42 certified. Optional fluoride filters can reduce fluoride up to 95%. Easy to set up and use. Doesn't require electricity. Purify water from lakes, streams, ponds, and wells. This filter system leaves in beneficial minerals, which is key. Save money by not buying bottled water and avoid BPA that leaches from the plastic. ProPure is the best gravity-fed filter out there. It's what my family uses. Infowars.com already has the lowest price on ProPure. But if you add the promo code WATER at checkout, you get an additional 10% off at Infowars.com. You can also call to order 888-253-3139. If you want to call and get the DVD breakdown film that Lindsey has produced, Secrets of the Elite, 888-799-6111, prophecyclub.com. Lindsey doesn't have an official website, but there's a fan site that has a lot of his material up on it, lindsey.williams.net, or 888-799-6111 to call and get his new audio CD and DVD film, prophecyclub.com. We don't sell it, but we do endorse the research and the sources he has because they've proven quite accurate. I promise to go to these calls, so just in quick answers, to recap, because some stations just joined us, the 3 reasons the elite are mad at Obama and the message he was being sent, then what it means, briefly, that they're selling more derivatives into the market with banker bailout money, QE Unlimited, and you said 2 years ago, Middle East will go up in flames, but that's a diversion, watch China. Since then, they've masked the ships. They admit that the new focus of the Pentagon is China. I mean, it's all happening, so your source, former CEO of a major big 3 oil company, is certainly getting some good intel. But just real fast, cover those points.
In 35 years, I've never been told one thing by the elite that it didn't happen exactly like they said it was going to take place. Obama was scared stiff the other day, and that's the reason he just literally stumbled all over himself. If the older elite have their way, he will not be the next president of the United States of America. And don't call me a prophet when election day comes around. It's just because they gave me information. 3 things that they are irate over him about: the cross-Canada pipeline, and by the way, it will go through if Romney gets in. Number 2, the Dodd-Frank Act will be rewritten if Romney gets in. And number 3, the production of American oil. You haven't seen anything yet. There's a huge oil field under Denver, Colorado they want to open up. The Bakken field of North and South Dakota and Montana. If anybody wants a job, you better get up there quick. You've never seen the like of literally a mad rush. By the way, the Liberty rig at Prudhoe Bay, they stopped drilling temporarily. They've got to wait until they create enough mass chaos in the Middle East to get the price.
Sure, they've got all the gas wells turned off or down to nothing right now, too. They're waiting. That's the word from inside. Again, China, what's going on with it on the radar?
China is in big trouble. Mr. Fromm, before he ever died, used the expression, he said, China is the big one. Watch China more than North and South Korea. Watch China more than Israel in the Middle East. He said, watch China. This is where the action is going to come from. China is in drastic trouble. They have riots. Can you imagine Walmart or Target without any product on the shelf marked made in China? Folks, you had better take notice to what Mr. Fromm told me back a year and a half ago before he ever died. China has already said we'll allow our currency to float from 0.5 to 1. This was on April the 14th of 2012. Anytime they want to, they can double the price of every product in Walmart and Target marked made in China. You better pay attention to what China is doing. Again, the Middle East. You've never seen such chaos. I've given the next nations that are going to be taken over. You know what happened in Egypt, then in Libya, and now, of course, the Muslim Brotherhood will be given all of these. This is where Mr. Obama comes in relationship to where he double-crossed the elite because he wanted the cross. He did not want the cross-country Canadian pipeline. His elite friends.
So there's truth to that they have the deal to only buy the oil from the Arabs if they keep buying the dollar. Obama's keeping the old Kissinger deal. And you said this a couple years ago that this would happen, and it has started. And so there is a fight. You're saying he really is double-crossing the West with the Arabs.
He positively has double-crossed them, and this was the way that my elite friend put it one day. He was so angry on the telephone, and we were talking about the cross-Canada pipeline and the American production of oil, and he sent me some emails on it. He said, Chaplain, I'm using his exact words, he said, he's a Muslim. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, in favor of his Muslim Brotherhood friends, he canceled out on the cross-Canada pipeline and double-crossed us, and he said he can't get by with this. Folks, this is more...
Yeah, but see, that's the larger globalist plan. They're going to double-cross the old American elite. By old, I mean people that still think it's a global empire, but that we run it for China and the Middle East, and they're all going to get allied. I'm telling you, the globalists are going to destroy this country. This is larger than that. Let's go to phone calls as promised. Lindsey, we've got to get you back up sometime this week for another hour. We'll talk during the break about when that is, but you're on fire with this info. I've never heard you so on fire. This is the best interview we've ever done. I know you've got tons of more data that really integrates in with my intel. Brendan in Wisconsin, you're on the air with Lindsey Williams.
Hi, Alex. This is a friend of yours from down in Chantilly, and I do have something for Lindsey regarding the elite. I was just wondering if I could shamelessly plug Prison Planet free membership giveaway tonight and matching money bomb donations. Is that okay?
Well, sure. Thank you, sir. I mean, do you have a question for Lindsey?
I do, and it involves price fixing as far as diesel goes. Back in 2006, when actually I was listening to your show, and I think you had John Williams on, and he said they're going to cease producing M3 monetary levels. And right around that time also, the gas prices spiked. I'm sure most people remember it. And diesel, for the first time, was more expensive, being a less refined fuel, and I own a diesel, more expensive than regular gasoline, and I was wondering if that was almost like a hidden tax on all transport to further debase the currency, if he had ever heard anything about that. And then if I could plug, Michael Murphy from Why in the World Are They Spraying is coming to Madison tonight, and I was going to give away a ton of memberships. So.
Yeah, I don't really understand what you mean by give away PrisonPlanet.tv memberships, but I appreciate your call and your support, sir. We got to move quick here. Lindsey, his question about diesel.
Proportionately, gasoline and diesel will go up every month, proportionally to the devaluation of the dollar, of $40 billion that the Federal Reserve is pulling out of thin air and buying mortgage-backed securities. You will see a monthly depreciation, just as you saw it happen the day that he made that announcement. The gasoline did not go up. The value of your currency went down.
Absolutely. And the media will never say that. It's always speculators or a refinery's out or, you know, gremlins were chewing the wiring. But that's what the speculators know when they go to QE Unlimited, that it's going to go up. So, of course, they start betting on that, which causes a lensing effect. But they're not the ones triggering it. I'm not defending speculators. It's just I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the scapegoating. Diane in California, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
Good. Do you have a question for Lindsey?
Yeah. Yes, I have a question for Lindsey. Okay. I want to know about the World War III that's being set up. Is that a maneuver to lead the nations to sign a peace agreement in a way of introducing the New World Order?
I do know that the New World Order is going to be introduced in a completely different manner than what the average American is thinking about, and that's the reason I felt such a desperate need to produce our new CD series, Secrets of the Elite, because you think that most people think they're going to bring in the New World Order one way, but no. The mindset of the elite, until you understand it. I
know what the devil Messiah is. That's what they call it. They're taking over all the churches. They're now removing crosses. I got to get you back up this week. I know you know this, but have you heard in churches across the board, they are removing crosses now if they want the federal funds, and it's being done covertly. Consultants now run all the major churches, and they're globalists. They're Rockefeller Foundation operatives. And during the financial collapse and the wars, they're going to outlaw criticizing the Muslims first to ban free speech, and it's going to be a UN law. Am I hitting on the right area, Lindsey?
Alex, 3 years ago, please remember it back. It's in the archives of your program, The Devil's Messiah. Do you remember when I told you that they had a program that Mr. Fromm told me about?
To take the churches over.
Before Devil's Messiah program. They mentioned it by word. I gave it in detail. Now you're seeing it happen right before your eyes.
I know. Presbyterian churches all over are removing crosses. Others are doing it. I mean, I can't believe I'm in America. I mean, it's crazy. The government tells parents they can't pack lunches nationwide now. I had another article out where they said, and by the way, we're going to start telling you what to eat at home. I didn't even get to that. It's like the kids won't eat what we have at school because of what you're eating at home, and we're going to tell you what to eat at home. I mean, it's all just insane. It's authoritarianism, Lindsey, because the average
world order. And, Alex, they're going to bring it in such a different manner than what the average person thinks. Someone asked me on a show the other day, they said, Chaplain, why, please tell me, why would the elite destroy their own country? Now, I live with the elite. I know who they are. I should say I know most of them, many of them. I did not. There were very few of them that lived outside the United States of America. They said, why would they destroy their own country? I said, you folks, you don't understand. Please, I beg of you. You don't understand their mindset. The elite are not destroying their own country. They're taking over their own country. The name of the game is control. They want total control without confrontation. Folks, are you catching this? They want total control without protest, without revolution, without riots. They proved that they could do it on September the 13th. When the Federal Reserve did what they did, you you must understand the New World Order is merely taking over the country, and then under their auspices, they'll bring it out the way that they want to.
And that's why they attack any protesters now or any free speech and act like someone photographing in public is the end of the world. It's all about dominating us ahead of the collapse. I'm going to say bye to you here in the break because we have another very informative and important guest coming in that ties into all this in studio, Ron Hubbard. But Lindsey, I'm going to talk to you during the break. I want to get you back on for an hour and a half later in the week because I've never heard you on fire like this. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.